Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and welcome to Look Back. Look Back is a show here I do in a dice tower where I take a look at reviews that I did 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years ago this week. I talk about those reviews, or those games at least, and what I think about the games now, if I think about them at all. So let's get started with the reviews I did last year. First of all, we had Freight Cars. I really wanted to like this game. The idea of filling up little freight cars with polyominoes sounded good, but the game is nigh broken with the scoring mechanisms. It's very unfortunate. 4 out of 10. Meeples and Monsters. I was very excited about this one from AEG. A worker placement game, but there's just not enough places to put the workers to keep it as interesting as it should be. Only a 6 out of 10. First Empires from Sandcastle Games, the follow-up to Res Arcana. It's a very different game. This one, some of the other guys here liked it more than I did. I was less impressed because I feel like I've seen everything in the game already. 6 out of 10. Glory Islands, a game where you're moving a ship around the outside of the board, then placing tiles inside the board. From Rio Grande, it's okay. 6 out of 10. Pizza Master, a game where you collect ingredients to then fulfill pizzas, but it has a little bit of an interesting mechanism, and it's very, very directly interactive. You can steal ingredients that other players might want instead of you. 7 out of 10. Caesar, Seize Rome in 20 minutes. This is the follow-up to Blitzkrieg. I like it. It's a very solid game of placing tiles out, connecting. Really, really good. It's not as good as Blitzkrieg, but a nice follow-up. 8 out of 10. And then Planet Unknown. Man, folks, Planet Unknown really came out of nowhere. Well, not out of nowhere. I saw the Kickstarter for it, but wow, I like this game of placing polyomino tiles. There's a lot of these games out there, but this one with a nice little rotating board, and you're putting them out there just moving up tracks, really, really struck me. Very, very good game. 8.5. 5 years ago, I reviewed Get the MacGuffin. This is from Looney Labs game. Very simple, silly little game figuring out where the MacGuffin is. 6 out of 10. Mackie Stack, you are stacking sushi pieces. 6 out of 10. Detective, a modern crime board game. Now, this is an interesting one. This one I'm still giving a 7 to, although I don't know when I'll go back and play, just because it's so long and involved. You're using the computer, you're working together. There's been a lot of follow-ups, but I think the original might be the best. The Mind, 5 years ago. This game where you don't say anything and you have to play cards in ascending order. You know, this one has stayed true for me, I think. 7 out of 10 still. I don't love it like some people do, but there is something to be said about just trying to play the cards in order. A lot of fun. Thanos Rising. This one I dropped slightly, just the slightest bit, to a 7.5. This cooperative game, which now the op has remade, I think, 5 to 6 other times. It's an interesting game. You're working together to stop the threat. In this case, it's Thanos. I'm starting to see one thing about this game, though. If after about 20 minutes in, you're losing badly, you're going to lose the game. There's not a lot of recovery done in this game, but it's still a fun, interesting game. Enchanters. I really like Enchanters. You have one item in front of you, an enchantment and an item. And you just keep adding cards to those, upping the enchantment, upping the item. A pretty fun game, 8 out of 10. And then Choose Your Own Adventure. This is House of Danger. They made 2 Choose Your Own Adventures. The other one was a better game, but this one was a really fun, off-the-wall story. Really enjoyed it. 9 out of 10, but that's also a 9 out of 10 for like that experience. I don't know when I'll go back and play it again. 10 years ago, I took a look at Beer and Vikings. Wow, this game is terrible. Like, horrifically bad. 2 out of 10. Al Rashid. So this is an interesting Euro-style game that was really hampered by almost illegible font. And nowadays, I would be a lot less forgiving of that, so I'm dropping it to a 6. Legends of Andor, this one also has fallen for me a bit down to a 6. And the main reason is because it's a puzzle more than an adventure game. And that's fine. Some people really like that. Z's a big fan of this game. I kind of want the adventure game instead. Hoplomachus, The Lost Cities, 6.5. Now realize I've not played, I can just see it over there on the shelf, the updated version of Hoplomachus. I hope that they've improved it, but it was pretty good. Almost good enough. That's why I got a 6.5. Same with Star Wars the card game. And you're like, well, that doesn't narrow it down. You're right. Terrible name. This is the Eric Lang designed living card game for Fantasy Flight that only lasted, I think, a couple years. Nice and smooth and simple. I just felt like it needed a little bit more. Blood Bowl Team Manager. Now, I played this more than 10 years ago, but man, I think this game has held up. I really like Blood Bowl Team Manager. It's very different than Blood Bowl. You're collecting the cards. 7.5. Pandemic, 10 years ago. I reviewed the second edition of it. Also a 7.5. I know some of y'all love it way more than I do. I still think it's a very solid game. I've been playing it since it came out, since 2008. It's a really good game. And I think the expansions, a lot of them make it better. Of course, I would prefer to play one of its spin-offs nowadays or one of the legacy games. Ristorante Italia. This is an involved Euro game about collecting ingredients and having your pizzeria that you're running around. 7.5. Fairy Tale. This is one of the first, I don't know if it's the first, but it's one of the first drafting card games. And it's a solid one that really holds up. It's just simple. Nowadays, I would describe to people as Sushi Go, but more complex, because that's what it is. You're just drafting cards, but these cards will all score in different ways. 8 out of 10. And Die Macher, a big, heavy Euro game about German elections. There's a lot going on in it. Very impressive. That's another 8 out of 10. 20 years ago, I took a look at Quest for the Dragon Lords. So I dropped this one to a 5 because that's really where I would be at today. This one hasn't held up at all, really. Here's the thing, though. It had some really cool ideas. You were out there fighting on a map, but you could send off some of your heroes to go through adventures, and then they would get back these dragon lords and bring them back and fight. Cool concept. But pewter miniatures, some of the miniatures were pewter, some of them were plastic. Just a little wonky of a system. The whole thing is just kind of creaky, and it shows its weight. It's 20 years old. So I give it kudos for them trying new stuff. It just hasn't held up well. And then 20 years ago, I reviewed Your Bluffing. Still one of the best card games out there. Kuhandel, it was called originally. 8.5. I would like to see this one brought to America at some point because it's just... And I also wonder if the scoring could be messed with a little bit, but there's just something about... I've scored 50 points and you scored 1,000. And it's a short game, but the bluffing aspect is so good. Anyway, those are reviews I reviewed 20, 10, 5, and 1 year ago. Thanks so much for watching Look Back. I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you next time.